Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. It is Sunday, and it's been about 24 hours since Inter Miami put a beatdown on the somehow always overrated Columbus Crew, who were awful yesterday. Inter Miami was phenomenal, and that's a recipe for a 5-1 beatdown that was good for the soul. I'm your host, Scotty. I'm here with my co-host, Saur. How are you feeling tonight, my man?
I'm feeling great. We have about an hour of talking about Inter Miami actually playing really well, dominating their opposition, and getting the result. When was the last time we did such an episode? A while back. So I'm excited for this. I'm doing well. Sad that the weekend's coming to an end, but we got to see Inter Miami in action, and that was great. And we've got 2 weeks break after this, so let's get straight into it and then talk about what the next 2 weeks look like before we enter into the Club World Cup.
We went 2 minutes early today. How do you feel about it?
I don't think we should ever do that again.
Okay, let's do some
I
house
feel
cleaning.
unprepared.
Let's do some house cleaning before we go into that game last night, because I think there was a lot to talk about and I thought it was a lot of fun. First off, Santi Morales, not on the bench yesterday. He was listed with an injury over the midweek, and so I assumed he was injured. Turns out he's actually with the U.S. youth national team, and he scored a banger of a goal today against France, I believe, for the U.S. U18 squad. So he's on national team duty or youth national team duty, but he's looking good, looking healthy, and continuing to make a mark at that level, which is awesome to see. Oscar Ustari, who we will talk about more in this game, I'm sure. Here's the update. He left the game at halftime. Javier Mascherano said, and I want to get this right, that he felt some muscle overload in the first half. And Javier Mascherano decided that instead of risking putting him out there and having to use a substitution window, he might as well just put Rocco Rios Novo in at halftime. And given the fact that it was 3-0 at halftime, you can understand why he would make that decision and not use a substitution window. So it sounds precautionary, but I don't know what muscle overload really means. And hopefully he's going to be fine. And it sounds like he's going to be fine. I mean, there's no long-term injury or anything like that.
In my expert medical opinion, I think it means that if he played slightly longer, he would have probably pulled something or got a cramp or maybe worse. So it's okay. I think in the grand scheme of things, it worked out. Rocco Rios Novo didn't necessarily have anything much to do. Of course, he conceded that one goal, which cost Ustari that clean sheet, but it was fine. Overall, I think the result went in our favor, and good for Javier Mascherano to recognize that he needs to protect a player, and he made the choice. Overall, worked in our favor. So hopefully, Ustari gets a well-deserved rest over the next couple of weeks, and I think he'll be back for the Club World Cup and be our number one again for now.
Yes. Last thing I wanted to talk about. I watched the game last night, and I'm not talking about the Inter Miami game. I'm talking about the LAFC Club America game. I guess I watched both. But I'm just such a big fan of Denny Bouanga. He is so fun to watch. And when we played them in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, we got 2 legs against them, and he wasn't in great form. He looked phenomenal last night, and it's just so fun to watch him do his thing when he gets going. And he gets the game winner for LAFC, which means they're going to the Club World Cup. Not interesting. What is interesting is that Club America will not be going to the Club World Cup. And Brian Rodriguez, who is a player Inter Miami has been linked to, is now going to, in theory, be available for a team like Inter Miami over the next week or so. He, by the way, scored Club America's 1 goal last night. It was a penalty, so nothing too serious, but it did, based on what I saw from some Club America fans, they felt that he really changed the game for them, and it was unfortunate that they weren't able to get the win on their part, but it could be good news for Inter Miami. I will remind you, his contract ends in 2026 in July 1st or June 30th or something like that. So he's got 1 year left on his contract. He is looking for a move. Inter Miami wants to bring him in. A loan move is what is the rumor, but I think if that's possible for Inter Miami, and if they can do it over the next couple of days, that would be a ton of fun. And we might be going live randomly one day this week to talk about the signing of Brian Rodriguez. And it was all possible because Denny Bouanga and Olivier Giroud and Hugo Lloris put together the performance that kicked Club America out of the Club World Cup last night. And I had a lot of fun watching it because I was rooting for the MLS team.
Here's the thing, right? If Brian Rodriguez doesn't come to Inter Miami, then I don't think we get any signings in this 2 week window. So I really
I
want it
wouldn't go that
to
far.
happen because yeah, it's unlikely that we'd probably get somebody else unless they've already expedited something in the background. Regardless of what happens with anyone else, Brian Rodriguez seems like a very promising player, and I would love for him to sign for Inter Miami. Uh, Probably on a loan because I feel like if we pay for him, it's going to be a quite a high fees and uh, the financials of that can work itself out. But I think it'll be a very interesting addition to Inter Miami and a profile that Inter Miami doesn't necessarily have right now. An out and out winger. Of course, we saw yesterday that a couple of our players were playing exactly that role, which was fantastic to see. But it'll be nice to have a winger who can actually take players on, play with the ball, and play that byline really well. So hopefully we make that come through. And looks like the stars are aligning with Club America getting knocked out. Unfortunate for them, but maybe it's a silver lining for Inter Miami.
Yeah, and the truth is, I don't care about them at all. I just want their best player. That's how it works. I'd be curious to see how it worked out, and if it does work out, what the logistics are on if it's a loan, if there's a way for Inter Miami to make it permanent. I will add, because you said you don't think Inter Miami is going to add anyone. We have seen this club pull someone out of thin air and get the deal done in 24 hours. So not even, the first report of it comes and then it's done deal 6 hours later. We've
I
seen
mean,
that before.
Baltazar looks like he's still a ghost. Somebody they signed out of thin air absolutely hasn't played more than 15 minutes with this club. So maybe they do something similar.
Fair. But I just want to, I think maybe it's the first. I would give it like 3 or 4 more days before I would say it's probably unlikely we sign anyone else if we haven't heard anyone about that or not. Anything else that we should talk about? Not that we won't get to in rewards, but here's a question from the chat. What about this growing talk of Messi to Saudi league? Is it legit or is it clickbait? It's clickbait. Simply put.
Maybe we should use that for one of our midweek episodes. But here at the Drive Ping Dialogue, we tend to be as straightforward and truthful with you guys. And I agree with Scotty. It is complete clickbait. So don't listen to that. Messi's going to be staying here. No doubt about it.
Okay, let's talk about the game. Inter Miami. We thought, and by we, I mean me, thought they were going to really struggle in this game and that they might lose by multiple goals. And they reminded me that I am just a knucklehead. 13th minute, Inter Miami gets the first goal. Lionel Messi on a free kick, quickly taken over the top to Tadeo Allende. Allende sort of hits it first time, lets it bounce, then hits it first time, slams it past Nick Hagan. 13th minute. 15th minute, Lionel Messi gets a gift handed to him when Hagan passes it right to him at the edge of the box, and he knocks it over Hagan's head. And then the 24th minute, Lionel Messi gets another one courtesy of a Sergio Busquets assist. And all of a sudden, Inter Miami is winning 3-0, and this is a completely different game than everything we thought was going to happen, than everything we were expecting, and everything we sort of predicted went out the window in a matter of 25 minutes. And it felt more like 4 minutes, if you're asking, if I'm being honest with you.
We talked about in our pregame show where the goal's going to come from, and you were especially skeptical about how this Inter Miami team scores against Columbus. What we didn't vouch for was that Columbus might actually be really poor in their plan execution, and Inter Miami might actually be on point with how they want to play. It was very simple. I texted you on the side. It was almost classic quintessential Sean Dyche performance where you rely on long balls with players running in behind. And we have the skill and talent to just bring the ball down, have pinpoint passes, and then all you have to do is beat the goalkeeper. Today, Allende with a phenomenal take. I thought that was a really well taken goal. Great shot into the corner. Could have missed it. He has missed it in the last couple of games. He's been in a similar position and has driven it low and wide. Messi, not even a doubt when he scored that third goal, chips the keeper. That was beautifully done. But I think the second goal was, for me, pure Inter Miami showing what their game plan is. They press, they put Columbus into a corner, they press the keeper, he runs out of options. Benjamin Kramaski with a great movement to bring him onto the left foot. The keeper, weak on the left foot, hits it straight to Messi, and then Messi just with a beautiful, beautiful shot straight over the keeper. I think the keeper should have saved it. But regardless of what the goal was, I think it was more about how Inter Miami pinned Columbus into a corner, and I think that was very specific to what Inter Miami was trying to do in the first half specifically. Their press wasn't necessarily super high, but they were picking their moments really, really well. And Benha was really pushing up at times when he knew that Columbus would get into trouble playing out. And Inter Miami almost used Columbus's own weapon against them. And I thought Columbus would tear us apart. Apparently, no. If you press them well enough, they do tend to make mistakes. And yesterday they weren't on their game, and Inter Miami benefited from that. 3-0 like it was nothing.
And I will add, there was some chances earlier even than that. The
Yeah.
fourth minute, today Allende had an opportunity where I believe it was Amundsen had a really nice goal line save where he put it past the keeper.
And I think he
and
injured
took a
himself there.
Yeah, I think you might be right. And he made a really nice goal line save, but like the signs were there from the first minute. They break through, and then by the 24th minute, it's 3-0, and it felt like for Columbus for the rest of the first half, the game was over in their heads. They felt like they showed very little fight after that. They got a little bit of it after halftime. I think that 15-minute halftime period did them a load of good, but the last 20 minutes of the game, it was just Columbus really struggling to do anything, and then Inter Miami pushing the ball forward as fast and as really as easily as possible, and had a number of opportunities to make it 4 or 5-0. I mean, I think we'll get into why it was so easy for Inter Miami in a minute, but I'm ready to go to the second half where it did feel for a minute like Inter Miami was getting a little too comfortable. They get the halftime break, and by that I mean Columbus, and they did look better in the second half. They looked like, okay, we just have to get one, and then we're back in this game. And they started poking, they started prodding, and we have a different goalkeeper, and we're not quite creating the same opportunities going the other way. Allende's getting a little tired. Suárez and Messi are getting a little tired. The press isn't quite as effective. And they get the goal in the 58th minute. Ruvalcaba, who comes on for Amundsen in the first half, gets it on a header. He kind of just breaks free from Maxi Falcone, gets himself some space, puts in the corner. Nothing Rocco could have done based on his positioning. It was just a really nice header from Ruvalcaba. But it's 3-1, and then all of a sudden, Inter Miami has, I think if you're an Inter Miami fan and you've seen everything that's gone wrong, you think to yourself, uh-oh. This has been a great 57 minutes. And there's a chance this is the worst feeling Inter Miami's ever had in an MLS regular season game if this goes poorly. That's how I was feeling. But it doesn't. Inter Miami gets the fourth goal and the put-away goal in the 64th minute. Luis Suárez, courtesy of Luis Suárez. And then Messi pops it off with a nice through ball to Fafa Picault in the 89th minute, who puts it near post past Hagen, and it's 5-1. Inter Miami celebrates a big win.
Nobody expected that. We surely didn't expect that, which is fantastic. I predicted a draw. You predicted a blowout win for Columbus. Lo and behold, Inter Miami, if you put the players in the right positions and set them up for success, they're going to perform and put on a show. And that's what we did yesterday. Very surprising performance. Honestly, came left field. I did not expect Inter Miami to be that clinical, that well drilled. And more than anything, for me, this did not seem like the last few weeks where we got lucky in certain instances and sporadically created chances. This looked like a well-drilled tactical plan of how we want to beat this Columbus side, and the plan being executed to perfection. And when that happens, you get a scoreline like 5-1 against a team that's one of the best in the MLS. So Javier Mascherano almost outsmarting Wilfred Nancy. Nobody had it on their bingo card, but stranger things have happened in the MLS in the past. So I'm glad that our team was on the winning side. And what a game. Honestly, really fun game to watch. And overall, I had a great Saturday night. And that's what I'm going to take away from this.
Let's talk about Columbus for a few minutes, because we have built them up every single time we've played this team as if they're a juggernaut. And then Inter Miami just goes and handles business like it's nothing. And this was obviously the most obvious example of that. But so many teams lately have pushed Inter Miami have given Inter Miami the ball. They pushed themselves into a deep block. Inter Miami has been very unsuccessful in breaking it down. They've been very susceptible to the counterattack. That's not what Columbus does. And Columbus thinks of themselves as the type of team that we're going to go play our way and we're going to beat you anyways. Whatever you want to do, that's fine. We're going to beat you anyways. And I think it played right into Inter Miami's hands, who, as you've mentioned, had that sort of mid block pressing system that worked very, very well, created a lot of opportunities for Inter Miami that they could convert into quick transition. Sometimes, if you win the ball at the edge of your own box, it's very difficult to turn that into a quick transition. But if you're winning the ball right around the midway point of the field, and it's Cremassi, you can get a quick ball to Messi and then push it over the top to Allende or Noah Allen or whatever, or you get to Segovia, who can put it over the top to Messi, or a through ball from Busquets to Suárez, or whatever. Like, it's one pass, and then the receiver is in a position to make a play instead of having to do 2 or 3 passes and giving the defense an opportunity to get back into position. I think it's going to be a successful recipe for an Inter Miami team that has an incredible amount of technical ability, where they're not going to miss their chances on a consistent basis as long as they're in regular form. Um, and Columbus sort of played right into it.
Yesterday, you mentioned that Inter Miami's matchup against Columbus almost goes against us and is in favor of Columbus and their play style. I would actually like to push back on that, because yesterday showed that it feels
Well,
like Columbus is the perfect matchup for Inter Miami. Because I agree with you what you said in that instance, because the way Inter Miami was playing, it felt like Columbus was, they were just so much more superior, and their play style would definitely hurt Inter Miami. But I would want to commend the coaching staff and Javier Mascherano for changing things up, for trying something bold and different. We've seen Inter Miami do this with Tata Martino, especially last year. Our attack was very quick, 3, 4 passes, and straight we're into the box. We haven't seen Inter Miami do this much under Javier Mascherano at all, in all honesty. This is the first time that we've seen that. But for me, what stood out the most was, of course, Columbus is playing a high line. They played a very high line yesterday, and Inter Miami doesn't have the runners. And we were talking about this. Okay, you sit back and absorb the pressure, but who's going to be the one making the runs? But yesterday, we were timing everything to perfection. We had a couple of instances where everyone was offside, especially in that first half, but it worked so well, because as soon as you won the ball back, whether it was Kremaski winning the ball, whether it was Messi winning the ball, whether it was Segovia winning the ball, you had 2, 3 passes to get to the person that can deliver that final pass, basically Sergio Busquets or Messi. And then immediately there was no thought, 3 or 4 players just bursting down. Allende on the right side, Segovia on the left side, Suárez centrally. So when you have multiple players making those movements and runs in behind and trying to beat that high line, it gives the person on the ball a lot more options. And that's what I really liked yesterday. The movement in and around in the midfield, but also in the final third, was very, very impressive. Something we haven't seen under Javier Mascherano. Under him, we've often looked static, but yesterday it was completely different. We were very, very fluid, both in the midfield and up top, and I've really enjoyed that. That was the game plan, and it worked so well.
a couple things I want to say. When we talked about the matchup yesterday and we talked about it being a bad one for Inter Miami, we were expecting Miami to sit in a low block. That's
Exactly.
not what they did.
No.
And so I applaud them for that. It was a great decision. This reminds me of last season, sort of right around when Suarez and Messi left the team for Copa America. And then even when they came back a little bit, there was maybe a 10-game stretch where Inter Miami would press really hard for 20 minutes. And then virtually every game they got themselves a 2-0 lead. And Matthias Rojas was a huge part of that. Um, but it was this, we're going to win the ball up high, and then Messi and Suarez are already going to be in position to have quick transition opportunities, and then they're so good they're going to convert on it. Um, I have two, like, now that I'm going back to that in my head, the two concerns I have are, A, can you do this against a team that wants to give you the ball? And that's a problem. But not necessarily, because you can just move where you press higher up the field. But this team actually do it? And then the second thing is, can they do it game after game after game after game? Because that is a more high intensity system, and it's something that Inter Miami, I think, has been hesitant to go to consistently because of some of the players on the field, Messi, Suarez in particular. And so when those guys know their sort of reputation is on the line, we have to get this fixed. You can see them putting in the effort, but can they maintain that for, the next 30 games or 25 games or however long the season is? That's a different question entirely. And so for me, So much fun. I loved watching it. I think it's repeatable if you have the buy-in to do it game after game after game after game. If you rotate well, if you give your guys enough rest so that when they are on the field they can perform and they're not hurting themselves, and if you have center backs that if you do get beat high, especially as you're playing a team that's going to sit in a low block and you're trying to go press them higher up. You mentioned that second goal where we did. Kramaski puts pressure on the goalkeeper and he makes a mistake and gives it to Messi. If you're going to be pushing that high, you're also going to be at risk of giving up space behind. And so you're going to need your David Martinez's, you're going to need your Noah Allens, you're going to need your Toto Avila's back there, and not your Gonzalo Lujan's and your Maxi Falcones and your Ryan Sailors. So there's a lot to it, but I think it was really, really fun to watch. And I think there are some things that can translate moving forward.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think it's a step by step process. So the first is picking the right personnel for this style. And yesterday, inevitably, it turned out that Javier Mascherano didn't have options to choose from. And so he put out a team that could really execute the game plan well. I think we can do this against a team who would want us to have the ball because the pressing was there. You just now have to translate that into counter pressing. So when you do lose the ball, do the same thing and get the ball back as soon as possible. Easier said than done on paper. I
Yeah.
completely agree, but there is a way that this can be transferred on against teams that would give you the ball and give you the possession. Because often at times against the lesser teams, we've had a lot of possession, but we haven't done anything with the ball. And yesterday we had very limited possession and we were constantly a threat every time we attacked. The third thing that I want to maybe explore a little bit more is this idea that this team can't press continuously. Yesterday, it didn't feel like there were a lot of players who were tired or using up a lot of energy with that press.
But
Did you
that's
see
because they
that?
didn't press after the
Yeah,
25th
so
minute.
that's the thing, right? I think we
They had the
weren't
three
pressing
nothing lead
super
already.
high.
But
I
that's because
think
they had the 3-0 lead,
yeah,
right?
maybe that's right,
So it
and
allows
it
you to
was the
tone down the energy. Yeah.
circumstances. But I also think the structure was really well done. You had that extra man in the midfield, and that's why I want to talk about the 4-4-2 formation or the three-man midfield, however we set it up. It allows Messi to be central, but also gives you that extra man, or sometimes even two extra personnel in the middle of the park. And I really like that. I think this team needs that because it allows one of the midfielders to drop in case, as you mentioned, there may be space for for the opposition to exploit and you need defensive cover. But also it gives you bodies to play off of in the middle and just have pass and move patterns. Again, we're probably reading too much into this. This is just one game. I my intuition suggests that Javier Mascherano is going to go back to what he was doing as soon as the Club World Cup starts. But we'll see. There's definitely some promise there. But from what we had yesterday, I really enjoyed it. And let's see if we can actually do something with this.
There's a lot of wrinkles I want to talk about, but I think maybe a lot of them are best referenced when we talk about individual players in the awards section. So there's two things I do want to talk about team wise. And the first is the question of if this team is back. And I had been saying for weeks that the first sign of them being back is the offense is going to get going. And all of a sudden, they get 12 goals in 3 games and they look dynamic offensively. And they do it not just against bad teams, but they do it against good teams. They do it from set pieces. They do it from free kicks. They do it in transition. They do it from build-up play. They do it from creating turnovers high up the field and having quick transitions. They look dynamic. And more importantly, it's all running through Messi, which is the key. Because if you find a game where you can have some success in a certain way, but it's not running through Messi, it's not going to be what this team goes back to over and over again. The last 3 games, it's been we're going to build up through Messi. He's going to be our star player, but we're still going to be wide, dynamic, hit you in different ways, and it's going to be really, really hard to stop consistently because we have so much quality. That was the first thing I was looking for when I was seeing if this team could turn the corner, and I think they've done that. And so we can talk about set piece defense. We can talk about transition defense. We can talk about who's the right center back. We can talk about Ian Fray versus Chelo Wigan. We can talk about Kramaski versus Redondo or Bright. But the first thing that this team needed to do was figure out how to get success out of not just Lionel Messi, but the entire offense through Messi. And we see plenty of times that left back running down the side, whether it's Jordi Alba or even last night we saw with Noah Allen. We've seen a little bit from the right side, especially when Ian Frey's on the field, but even a couple times from Chelo Wiegand, who, by the way, I think is a great player to have as a fill-in when Ian Fray can't start every game. And by the way, he's going to learn from Ian Fray. Like, it's going to go, the more you play Ian Fray, the more Chelo's going to play aggressively when he does play, because he knows this is something that's expected from him. So I do think this is the first sign that they're coming back. Does that mean I trust Javier Mascherano? I don't know. Does it mean that I think the defensive issues are on the verge of coming back? Not necessarily. I think that's going to take work. It's going to be a lot of work on the training pitch. But the first thing I needed to see was Inter Miami's offense is clicking in a way that will translate for the rest of the season.
It's incremental improvements. It's small things that you can see are working, and I think that's the biggest positive that you can take away from this. There's a long, long way to go. Inter Miami's not back by any means. Javier Mascherano is still under the scrutiny and will continue to be criticized if he makes wrong decisions. I am still very wary of his ability to pick the right personnel because, let's be honest,
Okay, but this
Go
isn't
on.
about Mascherano. What I'm saying is not about Mascherano, because I think we got to a point where Mascherano was hurting us. His decisions were hurting us. His personnel choices were hurting us. But then it got so bad that there was like a confidence issue, and there was a chemistry issue, and there was a cohesion issue. And I think the first sign of getting out of that is sort of this offensive breakout that I'm talking about. So putting Mascherano and his decision making to the side, like, I think the team is starting to feel better about itself. And this was going to be what it looked like, I think.
No, I agree with you. The confidence seems to be coming back. Starts with Messi, obviously, and hopefully we can build on from this.
Okay, you were saying about Mascherano.
No, I was saying about Mascherano, I think there's still a long way to go with him. There's a long way for him to prove to us fans that he's making some of the right decisions. What I will say is I appreciate his ability to make changes because you can see he's trying new things. They may not be working always. We have criticized him for a few decisions, but at least he's trying to make adjustments, and hopefully he learns from the mistakes that he's making. He learns from the changes and adaptations that he's going through, and hopefully we reach a stage in this season where he knows exactly what he needs to do with this team. So I want to appreciate him for that. But there's, again, so much improvement that needs to happen, whether it's the team selection, the formation, how he sets this team up. Yesterday was a great sign of his tactics working well, but he needs to keep executing that, and he needs to show that on a consistent basis before I can comfortably say that Javier Mascherano is really turning things around for this team. I think he's fortunate that the greatest player in the world plays for him and has been able to drag us through a lot of these performances and get us results and get us points on the board. Because if we didn't have that, we might actually be struggling a lot more. And right now, what we're seeing is that the players on the pitch are getting their confidence back. I'm not sure how much it relates to Javi Mascherano's instructions and training, but he needs to show it more consistently for me to then be like, okay, there is a positive correlation in Inter Miami's performances on the pitch improving, points total improving, and then, of course, Inter Miami coming back to what they used to be 2 months ago.
Okay, we kind of skipped over the conversation about Columbus because I do think they played a bigger role in this game than we probably want to give them credit for. I thought Nicholas Hagen was awful. Just, he was the worst opposing goalkeeping performance we've seen all season against Inter Miami, and I don't think that's an understatement. The first goal that Inter Miami scores, he 1000% should have come up and caught it softly. That ball is first touched by Tadeo Allende about 8 yards off the line. It bounces outside. There's a giant, like, there's no way that he shouldn't be going out there and just calmly, coolly collecting, just catching it at like a fair catch. The second goal, he kicks right to Messi, really poor. And then the third goal, very slow off his line, and Messi was able to chip him. Listen, I still think Messi's probably going to make that happen, but it was not a good performance from Nick Hagen. And when your goalkeeper's letting you down like that, especially multiple times early in the game, it can be very destabilizing and discouraging for the team. Ibrahim Aliyu, their striker last night, he is so bad. for Columbus Crew player. Let me rephrase that. Like we're so used to them having real quality and real talent everywhere and being so clinical in the final third. He is just like the opposite of that. He's got real pace, real quickness, real decisiveness, but not a lot of technical finishing ability. And I thought that really hurt them. And then Diego Rossi and Daniel Gazdag, who are good players, I thought had a poor night. A lot of touches in the final third that they hit too far. They hit the ball 6 yards over the net, stuff like that. And then you could see sort of in the second half, lots of shots from 25 yards out, just sort of prayer shots to see if they could pull something together. But I thought Columbus played really poorly last night, and Miami took advantage of it and caused it, right? They put them under pressure and they didn't handle it well. But man, Columbus, especially at goalkeeper and striker, were just really, really poor.
You play the team that you have in front of you, so I don't want to use Columbus being poor as an excuse for Inter Miami getting the points. I think we did exactly what we were supposed to do, but you're right. This wasn't the Columbus side that we're so used to seeing. I think they're still struggling to replace Christian Ramirez, Cucho Hernandez, Aiden Morris as well, as I think a big loss for them in the middle of the pitch. They're usually a lot more stable and composed on the ball. And even when they play a high line, they have the ability to just get back in attack, close down the spaces. I think their goalkeeper, Hagen, had a really poor night, and that added to the pressure. Once you're down 2-0, your team has to come out even more, and that creates more space for the opposition to take advantage of. And that's what Inter Miami did. Columbus was pushing up to get an equalizer, was pushing up to reduce the 2-goal deficit, and Inter Miami just took advantage of that really, really well. So there was definitely a sign of Columbus being poor and Inter Miami taking advantage of that. I think in the long run, they'll be fine. They've shown that they may lose players, but they can still go back to being the stable, intense self that they are. But Inter Miami played them at the time that they have been struggling to get results. I think they haven't got a win in 6 games now. So we definitely got them at a good time, but still, you still have to play the team that's in front of you. And Columbus could have easily turned up yesterday and made it difficult for Inter Miami, but Inter Miami had to take advantage of it. And we did. We did. We really did.
Yeah, and I should say Patrick Schulte, who's their starting goalkeeper, was hurt. Sean
Yeah.
Zawadzki, a big player for them, he was hurt. Rudy Camacho, defender, he was hurt. So, you know, it is what it is. But I do want Inter Miami fans to understand that we got them at a good time, I think.
Yeah,
and they
exactly.
Did not play
I think that's the way to frame this.
Okay, I do want to talk about a lot of individual players because I do think there's some very interesting things. But maybe we should just get to awards now, and we'll have some of those conversations. If we don't get to anything, we'll go to it afterwards, which means it's time for our awards. And if you haven't seen this show, we give out 6 awards after every game: a Heron of the match, a Heron that flew north, and 2 individual awards each. Because you went first last time, Saur, it is my turn to go first. This time, it's Lionel Messi. He was... and let me get this straight because MLS Communications tweeted this out last night. He's the second player in MLS history to have 2 5-goal contribution games. He did that last year against New York Red Bulls in that 6-1 win. He did it again last night. 2 goals, 3 assists. How do you describe the indescribable? I don't know. He's just that good, man.
There was a moment, I think, in the first half, around the 37th to 40th minute, where he was playing in the middle with 4 Columbus players around him, and he just bodied all of them and continued to keep the ball and just did not let the ball go. And that, for me, was the perfect representation of what Lionel Messi is as a player. He's just so strong, and the ball is just always glued to his feet, and he's just so good. The passes and everything is obviously, we know what we're going to get with that. But his ability to just absorb the opposition players to him and then just come out of that situation is phenomenal. And he played the best I've seen him play in the last 6 months. He was brilliant in every aspect of the game. His passing was on point. His sharpness, the first goal that we scored was because Lionel Messi, from a free kick, saw that there's an opportunity and made a inch perfect pass into Allende. His finishing, we saw it twice, really well taken goals. And then he had another really good ball into Fafa Pico and just makes life so much easier for the players around him, man. This is, I think, his third man of the match back to back to back. So,
Definitely is.
and I think well deserved. Best player on the pitch, best player in the world. Keep it going. This is the
That
Messi that we need in the Club World Cup.
that assist to Fafa Pico was really something special.
So good.
When you watch some of the highlights, you get a few different angles. You see his vision, and you wonder yourself, how do you even see that in order to make that pass? And then, of course, he puts in a perfectly weighted ball. Okay, Messi's great. We get that. I want to talk about him as a captain because that, to me, I think is the most interesting storyline of the past week. He went out and changed his operating procedures. He gives the interview after the Orlando City game. He holds the team meeting with the guys in the off week before the Philadelphia game. And then when things aren't going well against Philadelphia, he's the guy that steps up and hits the free kick and brings them back. They get a point there. Is great against Montreal, is great against Columbus. I think he deserves way more credit than Mascherano for this turnaround. And I think that's what this is. And so when we talk about Mascherano, I don't feel any differently about Mascherano than I did a week ago. I think I feel better about Messi's ability to captain this team. And not that I ever felt bad about it, but we've never really seen him have to be like a leader vocally or a leader sort of carrying the team through like an emotional state. And he did that this week. It's kind of crazy because just when you think this guy is incredible, he does something that you've never seen before. So yeah, I'm happy to spend the next 5 minutes talking about his ability to dribble because last night he was dribbling with an attitude, and when he dribbles with an attitude, he's doing something special. But really, it's his leadership that I've been so impressed with.
I've always known that he's a leader just because the way he carries himself around the Argentina national team, the way he's galvanized that squad to win the World Cup. He's always been the front man. For Inter Miami, it's never really shown in practice because we've never really needed it. And I think over the last 2 months, we have needed it. And I agree with you. There's more credit for Lionel Messi than there is for Javier Mascherano because he's gone up, given that interview, and said, we're going to change things around. And he's leading from the front. It's not just what he's doing behind the scenes. Of course, I'm sure he's giving speeches in the locker room. He's telling players to concentrate, be more sharp, put in the good performances. But he's galvanized everyone by the way he's performing on the pitch, because you always have to back up what you say with your actions, and his actions on the pitch are just their musical note. The way he's scoring free kicks to bring us back into the game against Philadelphia. He's scoring 2 goals, giving 2 assists in the last 3 games consecutively, now putting up MVP level numbers, is just phenomenal. And I think, yes, we can talk about his footballing ability, but the fact that he can back that up, he says things in front of the mic, he says things to his team, and then he can galvanize them so well, is, I think, a very underrated aspect of his leadership. And I think that's what we're seeing now. We lacked confidence. We're now gaining confidence because our captain is performing so well.
I still want to stick to the off the field stuff because you're right on the field, but like we saw a change in tone a week and a half ago, and Yannick Bright comes out and Talasco Segovia comes out in their sort of pre-practice interviews. They're talking about personal accountability, and there was like a clear theme from everyone on the team. We have to individually step up, and that's how we will get out of this. And now that you realize that, like, and you've seen the results, you can kind of realize that goes right back to that players only meeting. It goes right back to Messi's sort of getting everyone on the same page, because I don't think that's something Mascherano would have done. And I don't think there's any doubt about that. I've never been a Messi fan before he came to Inter Miami. Like, I was never a Barcelona fan, never an Argentina fan. So maybe this is something that other people would have just expected from him. But I didn't, because we had never seen this in Inter Miami. And so the fact that he has it, it's just an extra layer.
We didn't need to see it at Inter Miami. Now that we have, it's really good to see that someone's leading from the front off the pitch.
it's an extra layer of cool to this greatness that he is.
Yeah.
And I also feel privileged because if he didn't come to Inter Miami, I never would have watched him on a game to game basis. And so to get that privilege and to see some of these things and to still be surprised almost 2 years later is really, really cool.
And I think there's also something to his I don't want to say antics, but the frustration that he has shown with the referees. I think that in itself has had a bit of a galvanizing effect on the team, because it almost goes to show he's gone on and been like, you don't mess with my team, right? You, the referees, he's made them the outsiders, and he's almost been like us versus them, and that sort of brought everyone together and been like, the institution is against us, we need to perform to show them that we're better than what they threw our way. So it almost feels like the last few games where he's so shown that frustration against the referees, shown the sense of, we need to be better, or we need to be together as a team. That has really reflected onto how we're now playing with a little bit more confidence, a little bit more synergy, which we haven't seen in a while. So maybe that's something to it.
14-minute conversation on Lionel Messi. Was that well deserved?
I think so, just
I think
about.
so too. Okay. Tell me, Saur, in this game that Inter Miami crushed a very good Columbus Crew team, who was the Heron that flew north?
I'm happy to just spend 2 minutes on this, because this was the hardest Heron that flew north award that I've had to give in recent memory. Maxi Falcon, just because I think he was poor on defending that set piece, and that's one aspect of his game that you can see is a glaring hole. His ability to defend headers, his ability to mark his man, and I think this was more than just getting up and rising for a header. This was not getting in front of his man and being physical enough, because the player, I can't pronounce his name, but the defender from Columbus beat him to the ball and got up before Maxi Falcon. And Maxi Falcon was ahead of him, and he just got beat. And that, I think, is one of the big holes in this game that we saw. And it's been an issue for Inter Miami for a while. So other than that, I thought Falcon was good. He was very solid, but I didn't see a reason to give anybody else this award. Maybe Ustari for getting a muscle overload when he's a goalkeeper, but I think that'd be harsh. Even this is very harsh, but I had to pick somebody. So Maxi Falcon for me gets Heron that flew north award for letting his defender off the hook.
Yeah, I don't know if he should start for us against Halali. Obviously, if Jordi Alba was back, Noah Allen will start at left-sided center back. I would rather have Toto Aviles, who was on the bench last night, and so I assume that means his injury is not so bad that it's going to keep him out of a game 2 weeks from now. So I'm going to assume that Aviles is healthy. I think I'd rather see Aviles because other teams that don't have salary cap restrictions, that are hyper-focused on this tournament, are going to watch the film and they're going to say this team's bad at set pieces and they're weak and vulnerable in transition. And I think the one defender that really can handle that is Toto Aviles. So Falcon, I thought, played fine, aside from obviously giving up a goal. And in a game that you score 5, I think I'm not going to get
Forgivable.
too bugged down on
Yeah.
it. But turning this conversation to next game, I don't know if I want to see Falcon start. You could convince me that his leadership is important or his veteran experience is important, but I'm leaning towards Aviles, if I'm being honest with you.
He's very good. Him and David Martinez yesterday were exceptional. I think they were very good. You can get away with playing Falcon against MLS teams where you expect to score 5 goals, or you expect to score multiple goals, or just outscore the opposition. I don't think that's going to happen in the Club World Cup. And in the Club World Cup, you need to be physical, defensively astute, and you need to have the height and the aerial threat or aerial defensive ability to stop what the opposition is going to do. So I tend to agree with you on this. Noah Allen, Aviles, probably the ideal matchup in the centre back position, but maybe even Aviles or David Martinez if Noah Allen has to play on the left back side. So, yeah, maybe something to consider about, and we can think about it more once we know who's fit and who's healthy.
The other thing is, I think Noah Allen, if he's starting at center back because Jordi Alba's healthy, then I don't think you can start Falcone and Noah
Yeah.
Allen. And then beyond that, if Yannick Bright's not in the game, and you don't always notice this, but he's exceptional in the
in
box.
the air.
Um, if he's not going to be available, then I really I don't know. Um, okay, we don't need to be too harsh on him. I thought he played well, and
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with him, even though I do think he had a really strong start to his Inter Miami career, and his last few starts have been a little underwhelming. Uh, I'm still pretty comfortable with
It's
him.
not
I think
Luhan level of where we don't want to see him at all.
yes. Okay. My first award is the Mosquito Award.
The Mosquito Award or the Mosquito Award?
The Mosquito Award.
Is that a little mask in Spanish? Is that what it translates to?
No, it's like a mosquito, like a fly, not a fly,
But
but a
it's
mosquito.
Mosquito Award. Somebody who sucks blood, but Mas does a lot of it. So Benjamin Kramaski?
It's Benjamin Kramaski,
Ugh.
and I will say I'm actually changing it to the Cremasquito Award, but I couldn't tell you that because it would give it away. He was everywhere and pestering everyone just like a mosquito would. And by the way, he was doing a lot of it, and that's where the Moss comes in. Incredible performance. I think someone said it that we have to give an award for the man of the match that's not Messi, and it would have been Benjamin Kramaski. First time he's played as a midfielder all season. It was his best game of the season. We talked about it last night, but he was decisive. He was winning balls. He was threatening both defensively and offensively in a midfield that you had to contest. He was contesting a ton, and it was great to see. I don't think anyone in Inter Miami's midfield has done that all season other than Yannick Bright. And so to see that in a game where we kind of just wrote it off, we wouldn't expect it with Yannick Bright injured, it was great to see, and it makes me feel like this is the guy who should be in there for Yannick Bright when Yannick Bright's not available. Like he might not be for the next month. We don't know. We don't have an injury update on him, but yeah, he was phenomenal yesterday. He had some flair offensively that was fun to watch, and in the midfield, he's just a monster.
I think this is the closest I've seen Kramaski being as good as his 2023 form. He was all over that pitch yesterday. You mentioned a few flares. He was getting involved in the final third, making the runs as that number 8. But for me, the reason I would have had him as my man of the match if I had to was because he was everywhere on that pitch, defending, attacking. It was just so much energy. And you're like, how is he here when 2 minutes ago he was making a run in behind, trying to get in front of goal? There was another moment in the first half where he pressed the Columbus defender, got the ball off him, and it led to a chance for Luis Suarez that Hagen had to save, and it could have led to another opportunity for us. And that would have been almost 2 or 3 opportunities that Benjamin Kramaski created by his pressing. This is an aspect of his game that I didn't think was as potent. He was there, he was energetic, but I think his smartness and IQ of knowing who to press, where to be, how to support somebody when you're going in to create that pressing shape was what stood out to me. His IQ was really good, and he was a really good partner to Busquets in the middle of the park. Of course, we had Segovia in there as well, who was helping out, but I think Kramaski did exactly what he was supposed to do, and a really good award captures what his presence was yesterday. Thank you to Javier Mascherano for putting him back in the midfield, because that's where he belongs. That's what we know from him. That's why we love him so much. And that's why we started calling him the Golden Boy, because he played really well in the midfield whenever he was given a chance. He's not a wide forward. He's just not it. And when you have Yannick Bright away, when you have injuries in the middle, if Redondo's not fit, I think Kramaski needs to start in that middle, because he can really do a job for us.
I can forgive fans for forgetting how good he can be there, because he hasn't done it in a while this year, because he was not given an opportunity to play in his natural position. Last year, he had the sports hernia early on, and so he didn't really ever have a chance to really get going. But man, we've seen it as Inter Miami fans. He was this guy back in 2023 where he was earning all these plaudits and getting national team recognition and getting, next gen top 50 young prospects in the world type recognitions because of this player. And the last 3 or 4 times we've given an award to Benjamin Kramaski, the theme of every single one of them has been, that was nice, but he's not a winger. You should play him in the midfield. Finally, he goes into the midfield and he is awesome. I don't know if this is a positive or a negative for Javier Mascherano, because on the one hand, he did finally put him there, but this idea that he was a winger and he persisted with that for so long, I don't know how he ever saw that. I thought Kramaski did an admirable job considering he was playing out of position, but the truth is, this is what he is, and this is what he should be. And some people in the chat are talking about a midfield that has a Kramaski and a Yannick Bright in it together, and then put Busquets in there somewhere and figure it out. Like, that's how you start winning midfields. That's how you start getting Lionel Messi and Luis Suárez opportunities higher up the field, because you have ball winners that are going to steal the ball. They're going to pester the defense. They're going to force them to make mistakes. You're going to cut off transitions. And then when you get the ball, you can move it quickly up the field to your best players that have all the technical ability and talent in the world. And then you're going to get a lot more goals, and you're going to be better defensively for it. So I don't know how this guy was playing as a winger, honestly.
And he's a victim of what all other players in this team are a victim of, being misprofiled. You have to put him in the position that he plays best. So
yeah.
And we could do that same award for like so many other players.
I know. Okay, what is your first award?
Well, my first award was for Benjamin Kramaski. I'm not going to tell you what it was because I might be able to use it next time. But the next award on my list was the Ping Drop Silence Award.
The ping?
Not the pin drop silence. The pin with silence. A parenthesis G drop silence award. I think it's super easy.
I'm gonna go with Ian Fray, because he had a remarkable game plan in this game, and I want to talk about it, so I'm guessing it's him. I don't know.
No.
I don't have any idea what this award is.
Do you know what the word ping means? Pinging the ball?
Ping someone. Okay.
Oh, okay. I think it's a very British term that you Americans don't use as often here. But pinging the ball basically implies you just send the ball straight through exactly the way you want. Yeah. And who's doing that on this team?
Sergio Busquets.
There you go. Sergio Busquets for the Ping Drop Silence Award. We haven't seen Sergio Busquets. Okay, I'll explain it. Give me a chance to explain my award. We haven't seen Sergio Busquets make those pinging balls in recent months. He did that a lot under Tata Martino, where he would just constantly switch the ball out to the other side. He would have beautiful long balls coming in. But last night's game was the first time that he's split the defenders, took that central role. As soon as the ball comes into him, he's looking up top for runners in behind. The reason the silence comes in is because I was just stuck in awe with complete silence as to how beautifully he was doing that, because he had such good balls. We need to utilize his long balls more, and for that we need players that can make the runs in behind. The only player that can actually do that in this team is Tadeo Allende, and it's unfortunate that we don't have, Fafa Pico if he comes off the bench, but that is a strength that we haven't utilized at all of Busquets, and it just gives us a completely different tool set. We constantly talked about versatility. We always try to play through the center like a stubborn ox trying to push through all the players that are around him. But one thing we never explored was just pinging the ball over the top and seeing who makes the runs, and maybe you get opportunities through that. And it just bypasses everything. We talked about Darlington Nagbe being important in this game. We just completely bypassed the midfield when we were making those passes, and there were so many of those. So you need to use this as a tool to get offensive actions, because Inter Miami hasn't relied on this at all. And for me, I think that's what stood out in yesterday's game. The ability to play the over-the-top balls, the long balls that we haven't utilized from Busquets is, I think, underrated.
Yeah, you can have. It doesn't just have to be Tadeo Allende or Fafa. You can do it to fullbacks too. it can be Jordi Alba, it can be Noah Allen, it can be Ian Fray. But when you
And
have
can be
Jordi
Messi.
Alba staying back and playing conservatively, it can't be Jordi Alba. And when you have Chelo Wigan or Gonzalo Lujan at right back, it can't be them. And so you really do limit yourself. And then Sergio Busquets doesn't quite have the option. I think this, what you're talking about, gets opened up as you get more aggressive with your fullbacks, which we've been doing over the last couple of weeks. And so they're figuring it out. It's just a shame that it took so long. But I do think the offense has been much more dynamic and wide in their sort of in their attack and in the ways they want to attack defenses. It hasn't been so one dimensional. I think that's part of why the offense is starting to come together. And you're right, Sergio Busquets can be a big part of that. Okay, my second award is the You're Our Only Hope award.
You're our only hope award. Tadeo Tadeo Allende. Because why not?
It's not Tadeo Allende.
It's Obi-Wan.
It's Oscar Ustari.
Oh.
Because Oscar Ustari got hurt. We talked about that at the beginning. But what I did want to say was watching that first half back, the difference between Nick Hagan and Oscar Ustari is incredible. And I get that we have long had this conversation about Drake Callender and Ustari. But when you look at what a backup goalkeeper on a different team looks like, the decision-making, the quality, oh man, this Ustari guy is phenomenal as one of your two goalkeepers. If you have two goalkeepers at this level, you're doing a great thing. The timing, there was a couple times where he came out and he swept balls over the top. And I think when I compared that to what Nick Hagan was doing for Columbus, it was like, oh my God, this is like a professional versus an amateur. And he left at halftime. Apparently it's not a big deal, but I don't want to see I don't want to see Rocco in against Al Ali. So I need Ustari to be back. And I had a lot of faith in him after this game and seeing what it really could look like and how much worse it could be. The sweeping ability has always been my favorite thing about Ustari. And I think we saw it a couple times yesterday, and it really did make a big difference for Inter Miami.
Yeah, he came out of his box very quickly, and he's been good over the last couple of games. He had some really nice saves in the previous game against Montreal as well that eventually led to us scoring and changed the game. Honestly, even Rocco was better than Hagan yesterday, so you can't really compare that. But it's really good to have the quality of Ustari while Drake Callender is away. And it's going to be important in the Club World Cup where we're going to need Ustari's experience. It was weird that he came off at halftime, but understandable, especially when the game was dead and buried. But yeah, very quality player, and I like him. I really like him, and I hope he can get back to the form that we were used to in the start of the season with him sweeping and him getting out and making sure when his backline gets beat, he's there to clean up. And yeah, I didn't think he'd give an award, but good.
I think it's important that he plays against.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to see Rocco at all.
I will also be honest. I didn't know that. I mentioned at the beginning that he was probably fine. I hadn't realized that when I made my awards. And so this may have been a cry for help to make sure he was available to play. But yeah, he's got to play. He's a solid goalkeeper. Like, he's a legit goalkeeper. And I don't necessarily feel that same way about Will Yarbrough or Rocco, and certainly not Nick Hagan. I thought the difference between the two goalkeepers was like a canyon. Okay, what is your second award and final award? Close us out well, my friend.
I can't, unfortunately, because you stole one of my awards, so this is like my backup to backup award. So I'm gonna go with the Blade Runner award because I don't have anything else to talk about. Well, I do have another award, but I can't give it now. So
the Blade Runner award goes to Tadeo Allende because he's running around like a madman. And
it's not just that. I think
he's really he's taking the top off the defense in a really effective way.
He's not fast, but he's strong and powerful, and he makes some really good runs in behind. Like yesterday, there was at least 4 occasions where he was caught off sides. And you're like, he's getting free so much. And on that wide channel as well, he had a couple of opportunities where the ball was just coming into him. And over the last 3 or 4 games, I've seen this even more so, that he just gets the ball and then he's free one-on-one with the keeper. And he's been missing a couple of those opportunities. And today he just buried it in the corner. But he's really good, man. He has really caught me by surprise in terms of what my expectations from him were. And he's been slowly chipping away at those goal contributions, getting in front of goal, obviously scoring, but also assisting. And I think he's probably one of our most dangerous players up top right now compared to anybody else. So I'm very, very happy with the way he's been playing. And even when he had a little bit of a dip in form, he was the first player to get back into it and score a couple of really good goals. So he's got back into his old form, and we're now starting to see him really rack up those numbers. I haven't seen exactly how many goals he's got, but I think it's about 5 or 6. And if not for Messi magic, he might have been the top scorer for Inter Miami this season so far.
I just want to correct you. Today Oyende is very fast, and this is a huge misnomer because
Deceptively fast, I
he's
guess.
tall and has long legs, so his legs aren't moving that fast, but he's covering a tremendous amount of ground. Um, and as the tall person on the podcast, I will just defend that you can be very fast and not look that fast if you are tall and have long legs, because he moves, dude. And you want to know why he's always open and getting past the defense is because he's actually pretty fast. 6 goals in the MLS. I think the goals are a bonus. Like, what he does to open up play for Messi and Suarez is real. And if we're using it properly, it's super effective. It makes the back line nervous. And if he can give you, I think he's going to get 3 opportunities a game. And if he misses all 3, you feel terrible about it. And if he hits 1 out of 3, you feel good about it because he got a goal. And that's what happened last night. But the truth is, you should feel good about it regardless. And you should feel great about it if he puts a goal or 2 in the back of the net, because what he's doing for his teammates is hugely important. It creates that space between the midfield and the back line that Messi loves to operate in. It's where Velasco Segovia loves to operate in. And by creating that space, by putting the back line on their heels, by making sure they don't get beat over the top, and by constantly pressuring them to make sure they don't get beat over the top, you're creating space for your teammates that we have phenomenal players that can take advantage of it. So, like, even if he doesn't score, he's a huge part of this team.
Absolutely.
Unless,
Glad I gave that award.
of course, he has a chance to decide the game with one of his shots, and then he misses it. In which case, then we can be sad about it. There was a game against, I believe, Chicago, on the road at Chicago, where he had a chance in the 91st minute to put the game away and win it for us, and he missed it. So, in that situation, I understand being frustrated, but generally speaking, like, if he hits 1 out of 3, I think we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
Okay, Ian Fray. What the heck was going on with Ian Fray last night? Because it was just fun to watch.
He was in the middle, and he was being allowed to do what he wanted to do. I think that was at a point in the game where we had more or less won the game, and Ian Fray didn't necessarily have to care about defending, didn't necessarily have to care about his positioning as much. He was given the freedom to play out in the middle as much as possible, and he did what he does best, that is take the ball at his feet and just dribble with it. And I think within the first action that he had after the bench, he created a goal scoring opportunity by being goal threatening. In the second opportunity that he had, he created a goal scoring opportunity for us and became very threatening in front of goal. In the third opportunity, same. So every time he had the ball, he was just driving forward and creating opportunities and getting in the final third. And that's what Ian Fray is, man. You can honestly put him anywhere on the pitch and he'll just be so smooth and such a threat to the opposition, just with the abilities and talent that he has. And I like the little Shello Wigan on the right back, and then Ian Fray playing a sort of a floating midfielder, right midfielder, central midfielder. It was nice. Maybe we can see that again sometimes. Probably not, but
of course, the game state matters. He comes on the 60th
absolutely.
minute, but yeah, a floating midfielder that has the freedom to just get on the ball and push it forward, and if he sees an opportunity to make a nice pass forward, he gets that opportunity. If not, he can make a run in behind. And against tired legs, man, this is a real role that I think even Javier Mascherano should be comfortable with. I have said for the last year and a half that this is a player you can bring off the bench to be an offensive difference maker in the second half. And no coach has ever tried it. I think yesterday was the first time we've ever seen it in a real way. And it's awesome because you're going up against tired legs. He can beat anyone one on one. Just the way he shifts his balance, his posture, and then keeps his balance and can sort of juke move anyone. It's really impressive. It surprises me that other players can't do it as smoothly as him because it doesn't look crazy, but he's just so effective at it, and very few other players can really do it like that. But he looks like a basketball player just juking past someone. And then you're doing that against tired legs that are frustrated. You're going to draw fouls. You're going to get yellow cards. You're going to expose the space in behind. The next step is more final product, and like if you start getting that, you're going to be in a really like he's going to be a guy you can't take off the field, and that is coming from chemistry and time on the field. Luis Suárez has been on Inter Miami for a year and a half now, and they've never really had a consistent right back that's going to put balls into him. So he doesn't really know where he's supposed to be to get end product from Ian Fray. Same thing with Tadeo Allende. Messi's, I think, starting to figure it out over the last 4 or 5 games that Ian Fray came back to the lineup. I've loved what I've seen from those two together. But like the final product is the consistent final product is like, if that happens, he's going to be undroppable.
He's 22. And honestly, I think he can play anywhere on the pitch. If he bulks up a little bit, builds a little bit of physicality, he could be the perfect defensive midfielder. If he improves his passing, which I think he will, the more he plays, he will be the perfect central midfielder.
You know that's how he came up, right? He was
yeah, absolutely.
Like
and
he can do that right now.
Right back. But I think when you play in the senior game in the MLS, obviously you need a little bit more physicality, and I think that's something that he can work on. But he has all the assets and IQ to play in that position. He has all the ability to play in that position. His ball carrying is unmatched. I don't think anybody, of course, in the younger generation, I don't think anybody comes closer to his ability of dribbling with the ball. And that's such an invaluable asset. And he's just so good, man. You need to work around this player and you need to fit him into the system because you can't keep him on the bench. You just cannot.
He played defensive midfielder for Inter Miami back in 2023. Sort of partnered with Dixon Arroyo, and Kermasky was sort of ahead of them in a midfield 3. So he's done it even at the MLS level. He can definitely do it. And then he has like the vision and the sort of ball carrying ability of a midfielder. And then he has the size and athleticism to play center back, where he's really and the vision to pass. Like I think actually his highest upside is as a center back. I don't know if it's going to happen with this team just because of the way the roster sets up. But as a right back also, he's like, you can get all of that from him. And it's just a matter of like, how does Suárez play off of that? How does Messi play off of that? How does Allende and Segovia play off of that? So that he can put a ball in, a cross in, and those guys are in the right position to either finish off a cross or, you know, get into a good position so they can take a shot from outside the box or whatever. And I think that's what's missing is more from some of his teammates. Like, how do we fit together?
How do we work with him?
He's going to be undroppable.
Yeah.
Anyone else you want to talk about from this game?
Segovia, I thought, was really, really good. I think, again, we've had that conversation about Segovia already, so I don't want to rehash it, but him in the midfield is a completely different player. I think he was very important yesterday for the intricate passes that we wanted to make to just get out of pressure, and he just offers that outlet for us to play off of, and it's brilliant in the midfield. So I thought he had a very, very good game.
Yeah, there was... I'm sorry, I agree. It's the same conversation we've had for the last 2 games.
Yeah. So we don't need to rehash it.
Noah Allen, defensively, is not going to get a lot of plaudits, but what they were doing to counteract those 2 10s in Gazdag and Diego Rossi, I thought was really, really, it was a nice move from Javier Mascherano. I thought tactically that was the most interesting thing to me. And then he got up the field and was still able to at least be an outlet going down that left side. Obviously we know he's not the same crosser as Jordi Alba, but like he's still getting there and being a threat and forcing the opposition to adjust to him. So I thought he was really good last night. Rocco passed well.
Passed really well. David Martinez, I thought, was another one that could have got the ping of what was the award again? The Ping Drop Silence Award. There you go.
You know who looked great though? trotting out there for his season debut, Ryan Sailman.
We should
I'm
have
glad he
given
got the
him more
opportunity.
award, man.
Well,
Just
if
to
everyone
inaugurate
didn't
that.
play well, maybe we would
Yeah,
have,
yeah,
but there was a lot of
probably.
deserved ones. Okay, let's talk big picture. Inter Miami back in it. They are, I think, 4 points off of first place in the Eastern Conference. They have a game in hand. I'm sorry, they're 5 points off. They are 1 point behind Cincinnati with a game in hand for second place, 5 points behind Philadelphia. They're back in terms of the table. And for me, the biggest thing for Inter Miami is stay within the CONCACAF Champions Cup race for the Supporter Shield. Don't rely on a tournament run in the Leagues Cup. Don't rely on winning the MLS Cup. You're not going to be able to do it through the Open Cup. So be in the top 5 in the Supporter Shield. Be in the top 4 in the Supporter Shield. Like that's, I think, something Inter Miami really needs to keep up with. And they're back in it. I mean, they are 6th place right now, but 1 point behind 4 of those teams. So if they win the game in hand, they can be in second place just behind Philadelphia. Maybe tied with Vancouver for second.
Yeah, it just goes to show how things can change so quickly. All it takes is 3 good performances and you're back in it. But all it takes is 3 bad performances and you might fall off again. I keep saying you have to play it step by step, game by game, but the goal needs to be there. And you just stated the goal. Be in contention for the CONCACAF Champions Cup, at least secure that through your league positioning, and then see how you are at the end of the regular season on the list, on the table. You don't necessarily need to finish first, but I think we can. If we actually put together a few good performances, we can still challenge for the Supporters Shield. Be competitive for that CONCACAF Champions Cup spot is the most important thing. And then the Leagues Cup is going to happen when it happens. I think that's a tournament, so it can go either ways. But again, put up a good performance. But for me, what matters the most is just start being competitive again in every single game that you play. And last night was the perfect example of that. You dominated. You what's the word that you use? Suffocated, dominated, and whatever the rest of it is.
Intimidate, suffocate, and
Yeah, there you
overwhelm.
go. I think we
It's a
didn't
good one,
intimidate
right?
as such to start with, but then we suffocated them because they conceded 2 really cheap goals, and then we overwhelmed them with 5 goals. So we did that yesterday, and now you have to do that again in the next game, and then in the next game, and then in the next game until you're top of the Supporters Shield standings. All it takes is 1 good performance for confidence to come back. Now Javier Mascherano just has to put the right players on the pitch and let them do their thing. I hope Inter Miami's back, man, because it's a really good feeling when your team wins this way.
Yeah, and this is everything came down to this game, and they couldn't have done any better.
Exactly.
Like they pushed it off, they pushed it off, they pushed it off, and then when it happened where you had to have it, they had it, and they didn't just have it; they crushed it. Speaking of what matters to Inter Miami, let's turn the page for the next month, next 3 weeks, to something cool and unique and fun in the Club World Cup. And I think you and I, and a lot of Inter Miami fans, have thought to ourselves, okay, expectations are basically nothing, and that's fine. This team isn't going to win. We're not going to compete to lift the trophy, and that's fine. And so really what happens there doesn't matter. And I think that's true. But now that it's here, I think that the idea that it doesn't matter should go away, and you should just have fun and enjoy it. And whether they lose 2-0 or 7-0, or they win 1-0 or whatever happens, or they win 5-3, whatever happens, however they stand up to the rest of the world and the teams they're going to play. And I think they got a really interesting assortment of teams. One from Europe who's not sort of a super juggernaut in Porto, Palmeiras, who is a juggernaut, but a South American juggernaut. And then Al Ahly, also a juggernaut, but from Africa. So really different style teams. I think and I hope Inter Miami fans can just enjoy this for what it is and give it your full attention. Get fully invested. Watch the other games. root for your team to get out of the group stage. Watch the Porto Palmeiras game because it affects how your team is going to do. Get into it like it's a World Cup knockout tournament, or not a knockout, a group stage, then knockout tournament, and enjoy it for being an awesome event. Not because you're going to win, but because it's a really cool, special thing that very few fans and very few teams in the entire world get to take part in. And I want to like embrace it in that way.
I couldn't have said it any better. What I'm just going to say is Inter Miami is performing on a global stage. This opportunity doesn't come
It'll never
that
come again.
often. It may
It'll
not.
never come again.
And this is a brilliant platform for Inter Miami to just showcase what it's about. The results will happen. Of course, we're going to go up against some really good teams, but it's going to be a really fun summer, and it's going to be a really fun month of some really interesting matchups, teams that we've never actually talked about before. And I think we should just embrace that, as you said, and enjoy the moment while we can. And I'm sure the players are really excited. So just get behind your team, support them in thick and thin, and enjoy the moment while we have it, because it may never come back. So this is it. The next month is going to be really fun. And regardless of what the results look like, just enjoy it and get behind your team.
Yeah, it matters, and I think
Absolutely.
that's my takeaway, and that's what I want to get away from, or get to is it doesn't matter because you have to win. It matters because it's a special event and you get to be a part of
Exactly.
it. And I hope Inter Miami fans are there. And I want to say my guess is that a lot of international Inter Miami fans are taking this much more seriously than a lot of local fans, just based on what I've seen from people talking about it. But I do hope there's like a coming together of this matters, and it's cool and it's important because it's unique and special.
The world is
And
watching, so it obviously matters. Absolutely.
and I, but like again, it doesn't to me it doesn't matter if they lose 7-0 every game. It matters that Inter Miami fans got to enjoy being a part of this, and that's what I want to get to. Speaking of the Club World Cup, there's a window that opened today. Inter Miami has 10 days, 9 days and 3 hours, 15 minutes to add some players. There has been rumors about Brian Rodriguez from Club America. I think those became more real when Club America did not qualify for the Club World Cup last night. Aside from that, is there something you would like to see? I will remind you, 2 weeks ago they were talking about adding 2 forwards to this team, particularly wide players.
Of course, you want to keep in mind the broader picture of how this Inter Miami team wants to build up and reinforcements where we need. Of course, a left back would be really helpful, especially with Jordi Alba injured. But having, I think, a forward would be ideal. You need attacking threat, especially a left winger of the sorts. Regardless of what happens with Brian Rodriguez, I think another forward would be really good. But yeah, I'm sure they have their plan, and we'll see how it plays out. There's not much um, room, but I think a couple of forwards would be really good for me to reinforce our attack.
Al-Ali, man, next game. It didn't feel real until you mentioned that last night, or until the chat mentioned it last night. But our next game is going to be at Hard Rock Stadium against Al-Ali, with the world watching, to open up this unique and really cool
And
event.
they're in fire form, by the way.
Should we be doing a 4-hour preview show instead of a 1-hour preview show? Should we? I don't know. We'll talk about it. But
We might do
yeah,
something special. Let's see. Maybe a
it's
watch along if guys are interested.
it's
We
time
can
to do
see.
something special, right? Because I do think this is special. Okay, Saur, final words on this game, final words on the Club World Cup, final words on the first half of the MLS season, which is now over, and Inter Miami has somehow got themselves back. They went from the best team in the league to one of the worst teams in the league, and they've ended up still as one of the best teams in the league based on a very strong finish to this first half. Got to feel good about it, man.
It's halfway point. It's been a very bumpy road. We somehow managed to scrape a few wins together that make us feel good about this team. And now the attitude, confidence, and the vibes going into the Club World Cup are different. And I'm glad that it came to that. We've always said it's not about Javier Mascherano, who the coach is, not about getting him out. It's about how the team performs. And if the team can show that they're performing well, we're going to get behind them every single day. Uh, this last game was the get back game. If we didn't perform well yesterday, it would have all been for nothing. So I'm happy that Inter Miami was able to find some form, and now it's time to just go out and enjoy the moments that you're going to have with the world watching, and then we'll see what the rest of the season looks like. But I'm glad we're in a positive vibe now and not completely lamenting the fact that we're going to get smacked 7-0 by Al Ali. That may still happen, but now you're going into it with a good energy and some good mindset about our team, and that's what matters.
I can convince myself over the next 2 weeks that we're going to beat Al Ali, who is a great team, and I acknowledge that. Like that's not a disrespectful thing to say. They are a phenomenal club, and they've done a ton of great things in Africa. But because Inter Miami is in a good run of form, and because Lionel Messi is Lionel Messi, and when they step on the pitch in 2 weeks, he's going to be the best player on the field. And I don't think that's disrespectful to say about Al Ali. He's going to be the best player on the field. I can talk myself into us winning that game. We'll see. And we're going to spend the next 2 weeks coming on here a couple times and talking ourselves into it and talking about Palmeiras and Porto and Al Ali and a lot of other fun stuff. We'll be doing plenty of episodes over the next 2 weeks, including if any sort of transfer rumors drop, or not rumors, but confirmations drop, we'll go live that day to talk about the new signing, how they fit and all that stuff. But until then, guys, I hope you have a lovely night. Enjoy a dominant 5-1 win. And just know the next time the Herons take the field, it will be a very, very special event. And be ready and enjoy that. And we'll see you guys next time. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day.